is good, everybody? This is Joey from TCG, and I found a way to make it look like I don't have a receding hairline. You know, check this out. Not too bad, not too bad. And what I have for you today is a video. is a video from a guy that I was coaching, and I just want to break down this game and show you guys some of the mistakes that he was making. And I think a lot of you guys make similar mistakes, the people that I coach, and just from gameplay that I see in regionals and treasure cups and like locals vlogs and things like that. And what I have is some notes, and we're gonna go over all the mistakes that I saw. And while he did end up winning this game, it definitely could have very much gone the other way. So the first mistake happened at 48.56. So we're gonna go ahead and actually hold on a second. All right, so the first thing that I saw here is we're gonna read the board state right here. Actually, before we read the board state, let's talk about Red Purple Luffy. So Red Purple Luffy is a deck that plays a bunch of really big characters that either boost him up in power for the turn, or basically reset the turn. So for example, like Gear 5 Luffy skips your turn. So against them, you don't want to take too much life too early. So taking the 7k hit right here, he's attacking for 7k, he ends up taking it. What I would do is I would prepare to start dropping Hody, because you need to start dropping characters that can contest his board or his life before it gets too late, before he just overwhelms you with these big bodies. Now, while Luffy doesn't generate a lot of card advantage, it's important to kind of stall the game out for as long as you can, so you can kind of like whittle them down, because they do play a bunch of things like radical beam and like all these other things that can like protect him for a long period of time. You really just need to start whittling down his resources and establishing bodies that actually matter. So here he attacks for 7k. The reason I would counter is, one, he's representing 8 Dawn, which could be a dragon. And obviously the reason he wouldn't play is to play around the Bonnie leader effect. So attacking for 7k, you can easily counter that. If he plays the dragon, you can either take it or block it with a Rouge. And then 2, if he doesn't play dragon and he attacks for 7k and you counter it, you can then play the Hody Jones the next turn and then just take the hit anyway. That way you're not going too low against a deck that plays a bunch of big characters that are really hard to counter out of in the later parts of the game. Even though you do have your leader effect and you do have a kid in hand, it's really important to not go too low too early while you're still setting up. Now also, the reason you don't play Kid here instead of the Hody is because Kid, if he ends up playing the 10-cost Shanks, which this deck does now play to get rid of things like Gecko Moria and get rid of, well, things like Kid, then like the reason you don't play Kid is because you don't have Rosinante. The only reason this deck doesn't have removal other than the Rosinante. I'm sorry, other than the Shanks. So if you have the Rosinante on the board, you're completely protected from the Shanks, and they have to kill it by battle. So that's why you don't establish the Kid right there. So we'll go ahead and go to the next side, which is, oh my god, my friend's playing New World. I haven't played that game in forever. 50 minutes and 48 seconds. That was a really good game. That was a really fun game, by the way. I'm sad that game like kind of died. Okay. 50 minutes and 48 seconds. This is a big mistake right here. So he ends up playing the Baby 5, and he searches with the Baby 5 before he plays the Cavendish right here. And then ends up basically not being able to play the Cavendish, and he's stuck basically playing the Arouge. So what happens is you could have just played the Baby 5, then played the Cavendish to get restand 2 Dawn back, then search with the Baby 5. Also, this board state right here is really good because it lets him set up perfectly for Kid. However, he had the option right here also of searching for the Rosinante. I definitely would have searched with the Rosinante right here, because that's what you're missing with Kid. And I don't know, some people are only playing like 2 Rosinante. I play 4 in my body deck because I think it's just really important to pair with Kid. But in this particular situation right here, what you want to do is like your win condition based on the cards you have in hand is the Kid, because if you have so much counter, like he has like a blocker, 2k, 1k, 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 blocker, 2k, he has like so much counter. So realistically what you're going to be doing is you're going to be protecting Kid for the rest of the game, and it's actually pretty likely, especially when you have these 3 characters on the board, these 3 searchers. You're literally always searching for like 4 cards a turn, right? Body's gonna get you a card, the 2 Baby 5s are gonna get you a card, a Rouge is gonna restand Dawn, and you're gonna basically just win from there. So that's your win condition right there. I would be searching for the missing piece, which is the only thing you're missing right now is the Rosinante. So him grabbing the Doflamingo, while it is really good at stalling a turn, I think honestly the Rosinante is just like low-key just better. Okay, so that was that. 5139 is the next thing. Let's see what happens here. So 5139, he didn't play Dofi to establish a body to stop the aggression. Okay, so what a lot of people don't realize, guys, is a lot of people try so hard to find they try so hard to get maximum value from the Doflamingo. But sometimes you don't need maximum value from the Doflamingo, right? Sometimes you just can stun 2 bodies, and that's totally fine. What's happening here is he has no board set up at all. Like, our Bonnie player has like nothing of value on the board. He has an Arouge that wouldn't even dream of attacking into the Luffy player right here. So if that's the case, you need to start establishing bodies, right? And in my opinion, the Doflamingo is not only really good at establishing a body, but it's also really good at what is it called? It's also really good at stopping their aggression for at least a turn, right? If you can start playing characters that really start impacting the board and start contesting their board, they're going to start losing cards out of their hand. But what a lot of people do is people don't establish the right characters at the right times, and what happens is it lets the other player that you're playing against have characters on the board for longer and have more cards in their hand in the end of the game. Because if you're not establishing characters that actually matter, then your opponent doesn't have to discard cards, and then your opponent can keep cards on their side of the board, which make you discard even more cards over the course of the game. So that's a huge problem. So establishing this Doflamingo right here in his hand would have allowed him to stop 2 attacks and then develop a body that can contest this 8k body, while all the while he's still baiting out things like Shanks, and he's still waiting for things like like Rosinante, so he can, you know, play this kid. Also, he's going to be taking life, and the more life you take whenever you're before you establish kid, the more resources you'll have to protect him. So in my opinion, I would have played the Doflamingo right there. The next turn I would have played like a Rosinante or something like that, and then I would have just keep searching with these 3 searchers right here until you have like 15-20 cards in hand, and then you drop the kid. That is absolutely devastating. Bro, my brother, we went down to the Treasure Cup in Miami. Neither of us played in the big tournament. We played in the side events. But my brother, in one of the case tournaments before the Treasure Cup, was playing Doflamingo in set 1. And he played against this guy who was playing Kid, who had 27 cards in his hand, bro. Bro had like the Raizo, he had Raizo, Bonnie, and then Kid, and then like a blocker, and then every turn he would just counter. Bro, it was actually hilarious. My brother wanted to quit the game. So like, if you do that, you can still do that in set 7, bro. Like, times have not changed. Okay, so that was that. We'll go to 57-36. They start getting actually worse at the end of the game. The mistakes, they start getting like a little bit more jarring for sure. Okay, so this one was okay. So he stunned the wrong characters on Dofi, by the way. I'm not sure why he did this, but so he stunned the 2 what is it called? The 2 kids, and then the dragon. So guys, ideally you do want to stun the strongest character, right? Which in this case would be Dragon. But in this case, because the kids all have utility and you're not going to be killing this kid that you didn't stun this turn, there's no reason to stun the Dragon here, right? Because best case scenario is he restands 2 of this Dawn with Cavendish and puts it on Kid and attacks for 10k into the kid, and then the guy lets it go. But that's like best case scenario. He could easily counter out of that 10k with the kid and then protect it and then use it the next turn. So what I would do is I would stun all 3 of these guys right here, all 3 of these kids, and then let the dragon and the Luffy just run free. And then honestly, you should be completely fine from that point on. The problem also is he doesn't have anything to protect the this is like way after the board state we were just at, but he doesn't have anything to protect this kid right here. Like, look at his hand. He has a 2k and a 1k, and that's pretty much it. So honestly, what I would do is I wouldn't even turn this kid sideways right here. I would just attack with Cavendish and then search with Bonnie, and then just call it a day. And then the next turn, hopefully what you could do is you could search again with Bonnie, and to like keep trying to find 2Ks and blockers, and then all the while like try to like clear his board, because he's starting to run out of hand right here. So he only has 4 cards in hand, and he still has 3 life. So the ideal situation right here is you drop the Dofi to stun his board, and then the next turn you attack into it a couple times with what is it called, the kid, and then the Doflamingo, and then you play the Doflamingo again, you stun his board again, and then you completely clear his board, and then you take control of the game from that point on. That is the goal of this game from this board state right here. Because he's running low of resources, you know you can basically control his board, and then basically he has no way of killing you, so you just suffocate him by draining him of resources and wiping his board and making it impossible for you to lose. That's how you win this game from this position right here. And then there's a couple more things. Like I said, it gets a little bit worse towards the end, like the later game decision making. So 1 hour and 2 minutes into the game. This game didn't last that long, by the way. It was just it was like a bunch of games that he sent me. All right, so attacked wrong targets. All right, this is really important to know, by the way, guys. Is this okay? No. Okay, yeah. All right, so he lets that go. Okay. Definitely wrong targets, by the way. So right here, guys, you have access to another Doflamingo, and there's literally no way at all you can die this turn, right? Because you're gonna stun 3 characters right off the bat. So if you're gonna stun 3 characters, it should be characters that you can't get off the board ideally this turn, right? So what I would do is I would at first attack 10k into this 8k target right here, which is the kid, right? This forces him to use any event he has from his hand. This forces him to, like, he can't just use the 2k, right? If he has an event and he wants to save this character, it forces him to do it. Then you attack into it again for 10k if he uses an event. And then you force him to have another event and let it die. And then once this dies, then you drop this Doflamingo and stun these 3 characters. And then you obviously attack into him with Cavendish to restand on, search with Bonnie, get another card, and then just keep going from that point on. Then the next turn, you attack into these two guys that are rested that were stunned by the Doflamingo. That's the whole point of the game while you still have 3 life left. You're not in any worry of dying. But he attacks into the wrong targets. He attacks 10 into the Whitebeard, which it just doesn't feel like the right call. Because of course he can counter out with Whitebeard for sure. Like he can counter out of these attacks because they're easier to defend. But the kid is way harder to defend. So the one that is the hardest to defend, you wanna attack into that because it's the easiest one to get off the board while you still have access to another Doflamingo. Because Doflamingo is going to stun the other ones anyway, so it doesn't matter if they're stronger or not. You always attack into the weakest one that you can for sure get off the board, and then when you have more Dawn, when you're not going to drop a Doflamingo, you can attack into the stronger ones, especially because this deck doesn't generate a lot of card advantage, so it's a lot easier for you to actually just like control the board over multiple turns because they have no way of actually coming back into the game other than just cheesing a win with the Gear 5 Luffy. I hope that makes sense. All right, so 1 minute or 1 hour and 5 minutes comes out right here. 1 hour and 5 minutes. So he didn't attack the. Okay, yeah, this is important, by the way. This is really important. Okay, so he chose the wrong characters to attack into. Like I said, I'm gonna let this play out for just a second. But he attacks 10 into his life, which isn't bad, by the way. 10 into his life is not bad, especially because he's going to play this if he's going to play this Doflamingo. The problem is he attacks 10 into his life and then he doesn't play the Doflamingo. He goes aggressive. That is definitely not the right play. This is actually one of the things that could lose you games more than you think, right? Is he doesn't have any counter in his hand, right? He has like a 1k. And of course, this guy only has 3 characters, but what he could do is he could just go easily, attacking with both of these guys the next turn, with the kid and the Luffy, and then he could drop a Gear 5 and then probably try to kill him after that, right? Like, there's nothing really to stop him. But he attacks 7 into life right here, which is just way too aggressive. Way too aggressive. So what you guys, I say this all the time, guys, but whenever you're playing a game and you're ahead of your opponent and they have like no way of killing you, right? The last thing you want to do is give them an opportunity to kill you. So right here, you want to do the suffocation strategy, right? You want to drag the game out. This guy's running out of gas. He's running out of, things to play. He's running out of opportunity, and he's running out of time. And when he's running out of all of those things, the longer the game goes on, the easier it is for you to win, because this guy has literally nothing to defend himself over the course of like 4 turns, right? And of course, like, as long as time's on your side, right? If you're playing in a regional game and you have the time, for sure do this. If you're running out of time, obviously you have to speed the game up a little bit. But in an ideal situation, You always just want to be very patient with your plays. If you attack into him into his life for 10, make sure you play that Doflamingo to follow up. That way they don't cheese you out of a game, and that way you don't leave the kid active, right? So he's gonna go 10 into life, 7 into life. Then he's gonna attack with his blocker when he has literally, I'm telling you guys, he has no counter in hand. He attacks with his blocker, and then he counters with the easy 1K. Then he plays a kid. Then he plays Cavendish, and then he makes his next mistake of just like like this kid is basically just suicide at this point, right? Of course, he has his leader effect to basically rest one of the characters, which is probably going to be the kid. But Shanks automatically kills his Luffy right off the bat, and then he could possibly kill his Hawkins or his Doflamingo, and then possibly stabilize depending on what he has with like a Gear 5 or something like that. It just depends. But like right here, this is probably the worst thing you could have done, because not only were you a little bit overzealous, but you also just basically let a few of your characters die for free without really getting anything in return. The ideal play was to play the Doflamingo, stun the other two, and then slowly chip away at his resources, and then win the game either the next turn or the turn after you basically got all the cards out of his hand. That's the goal of the game right there. That's it. That's all I got to say. In theory, or I'm sorry, in theory, in conclusion, I guess the number one thing to say is the longer the game goes on when you're winning, the easier it'll be to win. All right. Also, the number two thing is make sure you establish characters that matter at the right times while also playing around things your opponent is likely to have, like Gravity Blade, Raging Tiger, and Red Rock, or not Red Rock, Gear 5 Luffy, and just things like that, 10 cost Shanks. Because what happens is when you establish the right characters at the right times, you are going to get more resources out of your opponent's hand and more cards off their field, and it'll be much easier for you to control everything than your opponent will if they're not establishing the right characters, because they don't have anything that's threatening. They don't have anything that's going to take over the game at the right times. So that's it. That's it. Let me know if you guys like these videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.